one, right?
Yeah. Oh, man. Hi, everybody. Are we good?
I think we're good. We're both here, both alive.
All right. So, hi, guys. Welcome back to So You Wanna, a show for writers. If you're just tuning in, the show is to help build a community for you guys, for us, for everybody. Really, the end game here, our master plan is to just put more books out into the world. If you're interested, and maybe you missed last week, we did cover writing a romance, which, as always, you're going to be able to go to our profiles, check out the highlights, check out the grid, see the actual breakdown of it, but see our link back to the Instagrams of our other shows. So make sure you do that. Without further ado, I'm Meg, and I'm a glorified Pisces. You probably recognize my work from the constant spam on your newsfeed. But if you don't, I'm the author of the dark romance Miranda Writes, which is a trilogy, also Birds and Bullets, and on occasion I write probably the broodiest poetry you're ever going to read. It's all available for free on Wattpad if you're interested. Links in my bio.
And I'm Elle. I'm the author of Calorglin and the brand new, just released yesterday, contemporary romance For the Love of Art. Wow, that was a hype train indeed. Both are available for free on Wattpad, so head on over, check them out. You can find the link in my link tree. Just to let you know, I create dream men that will never exist in real life, and you are welcome. And without further ado, we're going to talk about characters, so that's why I'm telling you that.
Just so you know, if you submitted a question ahead of time, we are going to get to it. I know some of you guys slid into our DMs. Some of you guys found the actual drop ball that we had that was like, hey, drop your character tips and your questions. And we thank you for that. That really helps us kind of flesh out what we're talking about so that you guys don't get bored of just us droning on.
All right, well, do you want to start?
I sure do. So, character building is probably what I spend the absolute most time on. I'm crazy OCD, if nobody knows that. So
everyone knows that.
I like to articulate it as detail oriented. But what makes a good character?
Potato.
I want to go on record to say that a good character is not actually defined on if they're good or evil. There are plenty of evildoers that I just think are great. No spoilers, but if you've watched Shadow and Bone, the Darkling, oh my God, what a perfectly written character and well, delivered. I spent the whole time so I just want to throw that out there. So again, it's not, I had to plug, Mari is like, who would have thought? I had to plug Shadow and Bone. Okay. I really enjoyed it. Okay. So
I'm adding it to my list of things that I will probably never watch.
Yeah. I know, like Die Hard. Although you did promise
hey, Christmas.
You promised me.
I promised Christmas. We're going to have a date and I'm going to watch Die Hard with you.
So again, good characters aren't defined on if they're on the good side or on your main character side. A good character is someone who, even if they're on screen for 40 seconds, leaves an impression. You remember their name, their purpose, and what they did to serve the plot. And for the love of God, please make sure your characters serve the plot. You're going to have to name the occasional barista and, rando for the sake of dialogue and to prove that your main character does, in fact, exist in the real world. But the biggest issue I see with casting is when you have this 100-army, sea of nobodies that just don't have any purpose in the story. And then me as a reader, I'm reading it and I'm like, who is this? Why are they here? I don't understand what's happening. And you want them to mean more than they do, and you're the guy who's at the end of the chapter going, wait, What? Why? Why did we even hear
And then they
about
never
this
show
person?
up again.
So, as my mother once told me, who she is a writer, if you can combine characters, you absolutely should. And I just thought that once I understood it, was such good advice. So you can do what I do and shove people into the, fictional wood chipper and just, Frankenstein them back together to a new character. You can get rid of them entirely. Yana. The chat cracks me up. But yeah, I just want to say, remember, a good character reflects a real person. And real people have strengths, weaknesses, flaws, thoughts, and feelings. They have friends, family. Maybe they don't if you're going for that orphan. And just know that they all have a purpose. So why don't we talk about how we do that? Your process, maybe?
Yeah, definitely.
And anyone else, you can drop yours anytime.
Yeah, leave some tips there. We're all writers here, and so everyone wants to see what we all do. Meg and I will talk about our own personal, ways that we go about building our characters. I know that Meg is much more detail-oriented than I am. I kind of think in a much, broader, thought process of people. It could be my background and what I went to school for kind of shaped that for me a bit. So the first thing that I always think about is like, what do I want their overall personality to be? Do I want them to be sweet? Do I want them to be narcissistic? Do I want them to be funny? I kind of think about that first as my first stepping stone. And then once once I figure out my main character's personality, I start building the characters around them who are going to be closest to them. And I start thinking about different things in their personalities that will either contrast or complement to help create, tension and conflict. But as well as, you do need some characters that are there to help them and be a good person. And then I go into writing a complete background for my characters. So this is everything. This is their age, their birth date, their eye color, what's their ethnicity, who are their parents, what was it like for them to grow up, all that stuff. And then speaking of family, I then also create their family. So I will actually create family trees for my characters to help me kind of figure
helpful.
Yeah, whenever I create big character or big families, yeah, it's helpful. But I mean, overall, my big thing is I like to create a full background for my characters because everybody has a life before who they are right now. So obviously my characters had a life before whatever point I start the story at. And so I like to make sure that that's there and it's shown. Well, I think it's so important because it shapes who we are, right?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, personally, if I was to give any tip, it's know your characters like they are yourself. Just know them so well. Like, if someone asked you a question, you could answer it as them. Like, that's how well you should know your characters, kind of thing. And I think that really helps whenever you are trying to portray your character in any situation. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Meg, what about you?
Oh God. Buckle up. Detail orient. Okay. So I'm very ill and I like to spend a lot of time on my characters. The first thing that I do almost always, I think about, do I want this person to be guarded? Do I want this person to be funny? Do I want this person to be just batshit crazy? Sorry if your kids are watching.
Sorry, it's 18 plus.
Yeah, but the main thing that I kind of work around is the Myers-Briggs personality. and that's like a breakdown of whether or not for anyone who doesn't know, if your character is extroverted or introverted, judging, perceptive, thinking or feeling. So I like sensing, intuitive. I like the science behind that. I'm a very logically minded person. So there's a site that's called 16 Personalities. I promised Elle I was going to look this up before the show, but I didn't because I have a Pisces brain and I forget shit. But that's why I take notes.
That's also why she has me, but I was a little under the weather this week, so.
So 16 Personalities, I think it's .org. If anybody knows, you can drop it here. But you can go, it is like a 50 question quiz. It's the shorter version of the actual Myers-Briggs that you would take in, like, you know, psychology courses or whatever. And it breaks down, you know, where you fall on that sort of thing. And it's a bunch of strongly agree, strongly disagree, and then like the middle in between. But I like to take that as my characters. And maybe that's because blah bitch, yeah, maybe that's because I'm psychotic, but you know, I really like to just get into, like, I try to use so many resources to just really solidify them, because while I had read this thing that really stuck with me, all my characters are a piece of me that I've broken off and created them out of. I do try to write like out of my comfort zone, and characters who aren't me. If you've read Birds and Bullets, I hope to God you don't think the main character is me.
Oh, I see you written all over him.
You know, yeah, I just think that it's so easy to look over and be like, okay, so his personality is this, which means in this situation he would probably react this way, whereas, you know, Megan would not. A little more metaphysical from that, I'm trying to keep this short-winded, I'm so sorry, is astrology, because again, glorified Pisces. Especially when I'm writing romance, forgive me, I try to make my main characters compatible based on their astrology. So Miranda Walker in Miranda Writes is a Leo, and Bishop is a Libra, and Eddie is a Pisces. So it's just a little, yeah, I'm a bit obsessed. Anyway, next up, archetypes. I mentioned earlier the orphan. I'm a fan of that trope. I know it's been done, but it can be done so well over and over, and I enjoy it. So archetypes, there's like 12 archetypes. I cannot list them all, but off the top of my head, the hero, the magician, the orphan.
I feel like Made's trolling you.
Yeah. For anyone who doesn't know, I'm going to call her out. Made Writes here. I actually think it's actually Made, but I'm terrible at German. She is my translator, which again, see, terrible at German. So for the Miranda Writes, she actually did all of the German, helped me with it, took time out of her very, very busy schedule to help. And yes, honey, Eddie is a Pisces. I actually mentioned that in the book. There's a scene where he's got his arms crossed, and I said, like a typical Pisces. And that is for you. I just want you to know, because you hate Eddie so much. I specifically made him one of us. But
one of us. I'm not a Pisces, so
yeah. So yeah, and then off of that, I also have a lot of experience in tabletop RPGs, so I would recommend, if that's maybe where you like to thrive, a point system is really great. And then overall, I just think about where they sit in the plot. Like if I mapped out the plot on a crazy conspiracy wall, where would my characters fall, and why are they there, and what do they connect to? Because again, they have to matter. I'm a very Chekhov John style writer.
Oh no!
I've been pronouncing Pisces
now
wrong.
I want to know how you pronounced it.
Probably Pisces. I don't know. I'm just kidding.
Dude, sex is next week.
But I like to build very complex, intricate spiderweb stories. So everything I write is on purpose. So if you hear something, if you hear something or see something in chapter 1 where I mentioned this, this, and this, there's a reason I do. It's gonna come back. So yeah. Then my tips are write little fanfics of your original characters. Like, what would they do if they were stuck on a Ferris wheel? How do they treat the waiting staff? Would they survive during a zombie apocalypse? And maybe this is the actress in me, but again, I take a slew of BuzzFeed quizzes, the Myers-Briggs, you know, kind of to just be that person and make sure I can keep up the facade while I'm writing them. With that said, I also write like one character at a time. So like I write the script out, or I used to write play scripts, but I write the novel out, and then I go back and I edit all of Bishop at one time. So then I have his dialect right and in my head, so I'm not fucking up the dialogue as I go. So yeah, and then run them by a trusted friend. I run everything by Elle or Made and, you know, my mom, and I say, does this sound coherent?
Now we really have to because we have a virus, so.
And then, you know, don't be afraid of drawbacks, because again, real characters mirror real people, and real people have flaws, and they have drawbacks, and they have fears and quirks and everything. So please, for the love of God, do not make your characters Mary Sue's. Don't make them so good at everything, because your readers will hate them.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, I agree with that. Yes, please have characters with flaws. There's nothing worse than the perfect character, you know? I mean, even whenever I think about Calorglin, like I designed Patrick to be a dream man. If you guys tuned in last week, you would have heard me talk about that. But I still tried to give him some flaws, some things about him that maybe people wouldn't like, you know? So it's hard to do that sometimes, though. It can be really hard to create flaws in your characters because you love them so much. You want them to be perfect, especially love interests. I find I always want my love interests to be like these perfect people, you know?
Hey, Eddie's my favorite, but I made him really toxic and clingy, and everybody hates him, so.
But you know what? By the end of your novel, I did not hate him anymore. He really grew.
He makes a bad impression, but he's not a bad guy.
Exactly. He grows over the novel, and I think that's important and something that you should do in your writing.
I was trying to trigger her, and it worked. Delilah Bard. I have heard so much complaint about Delilah Bard. I've never read the books, but I've heard everything. Apparently, she's really great at everything.
Who's Delilah Bard?
So I can't remember the series. Was it A Darker Shade of Magic that she's in? And like, again, I haven't read the book, so if they're good, you know, blame Made here. But she said that, you know, all the characters are great except for Delilah Bard, because Delilah Bard has no faults and she has no consequences, and she has, you know, like, it's just irritating for your readers.
Right. So not a super well-rounded character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I haven't read the book, so please don't at me. Please deliver all your hate mail to Made Writes right here.
Yeah, her screen name's right at the bottom there.
URITES.
What sort of flaws make that?
What sort of flaws make the characters endearing? My main character themselves in the early chapters should have known you were laughing, and now my beta's calm pissy. That's horrible.
I need to collect myself.
Characters I think endearing.
I mean, I think really, when it comes to flaws, there's always going to be some flaws that make your characters endearing and some that make them toxic. I mean, if your character is running around purposefully hurting people, no one's going to find that flaw endearing.
Yeah.
But I mean, a flaw like, trying to think of my own characters and some of their flaws.
I've got Casey in Birds and Bullets. She's a spy, which if anyone's familiar with James Bond, you know that there's a certain amount of killing that happens in that sort of era, I guess, world, right? But she pukes at the sight of like dead bodies. So it complicates things. She's really bad at herself.
I'm just gonna say, as a sympathetic puker, I would not find that flaw endearing.
I think it's endearing. It complicates some things.
I would not be like, hey, I want her.
Yeah,
no, she's probably
not who you should pick for your team, but nobody knows it until it happens, and then it's like, oh no, and it just keeps happening.
So I was just kind of thinking about my own characters, and I was kind of thinking, you know, like a drawback for Nathan, who's in my newest book, for the Love of Art. He is a playboy, which I would call, you know, a flaw in him. I wouldn't. I would if you're on the quest to true love with him. But, you know, I mean, it's all in how you portray it, I guess. Anyway, I mean, I feel like that's a bit of a flaw for him, but, you know, it's all in how you write your flaws, and it's all in how they grow from those flaws and stuff like that, I think, too. It's not just the flaw itself. It's like, do they become better, or, you know, which is part of character development. Are they a dynamic character, or are they
you're on a corruption arc?
Oh, there you go. Still a dynamic character.
So Mare says sometimes the greatest flaws are the greatest strengths, and I agree with that. Yeah.
Not my sympathetic puking, but
yeah. Okay.
Oh my god. I'm gonna move on to the next section. That was some great discussion. I liked that. So I'm gonna talk a bit about.
Hey Al, what starts with? You guys want to see her puke?
Stop! You're the worst. I just snorted on live.
I have an Aries moon, okay?
Corruption arc. We're on a corruption arc right now.
Huzzah!
Okay. Moving on to the next section, which is mine.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk a bit about creating a character sheet and creating family trees, which are two things that I use to really help me create my characters in my novels. So one of my favorite things to do is to actually create a character sheet. You can do it online or like on a document or whatever. I'm super old school. Like I still do them in notebooks because I am ancient, apparently.
Woo!
Hey! And yeah, so I feel like what I'm going to do today, I decided, I had to think about this, was I'm actually going to break down what my character sheets actually contain for you guys. Kind of using my main character from For the Love of Art. Again, brand new, just out. Go check it out. It's really good. That's Megan's bad influence. I know. I'm just, ever since I met her, I've just been on this corruption arc and...
What? Sorry, guys. I'm secretly like a bro. Like, I like to high five and yell bullying things. I'm so sorry.
Oh my. Okay. So I'm going to break down this sheet now. Hopefully, Megan
please do.
Hopefully you won't jeer me too much. Okay, so the first thing I always start with in my sheets, you can't really see it because we're on like these terrible cameras, but I normally start with this section which is kind of like a breakdown of some of the main, most typical things that you would find about a person. So their full name. So in For the Love of Art, it's Isla Watts. That's her married name, though. Her maiden name was Ramirez before she got married. Her date of birth I put down, which is May 1st, 1986, and that also gives me an age. So that's something you should think about too, is like the age of your characters, because that's also going to play a role into how they deal with situations. Obviously, how a 35-year-old deals with something is going to be different than how, say, a 20-year-old deals with something, because there's going to be that 15 years of experience. Not to mention, if we're going to go into the psychology of it all, a 35-year-old actually has a fully developed brain, a 20-year-old does not. So so always keep little details like that in mind, that age actually plays a really big role in how they're going to deal with stuff. I put down their sex, which hers is female, their pronouns, which is she, her for this, her height, which is 5'3", weight 144, what kind of body type does she have? I put slim, hair color, eye color, all of this, like her hair type, what's the style, how does she normally wear it, what's her skin tone, any piercings, any tattoos, anything like that that I feel like I need to remember and be able to call back to. Do you update the sheet based on events in the book? Sometimes if I feel like the character needs a change, or I want something to come off a certain way, I might add something. I will change it a little bit, but quite often I'm pretty set in stone on my characters. I normally kind of walk into the story, kind of knowing what I want them to be. You know, like, for example, like Isla is very, you know, she's kind of straight-laced. She isn't super, I don't know, she's just not super showy, I guess. That's not really the way to put someone who has piercing.
She's also not chill at all.
She's what?
Not chill at all.
Yeah. No, she's really not. Rude, my fish brain is completely fine.
I already told her it's not. She forgets stuff all the time.
Oh, this is a Pisces problem. Anyway, in the next section, kind of, I start putting in more details on, like, background and stuff like that. So I start with, like, ethnicity. So in this case,
changing between books.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sometimes changing between books is good. If you do have a continuing arc, that can definitely help to change them a little bit, like their strengths, their weaknesses and stuff. I'm a standalone book writer. So,
I wish I was. Why did I start a trilogy? I hate myself.
I couldn't tell you. Anyway, so in this case for Isla, so ethnicity, I put on her mom's side, she's Caucasian. On her dad's side, she's Latin. Nationality is American. It takes place in New York, so I feel like that's pretty pretty normal. Her birthplace, though, is in Connecticut, so I wanted her that she had a life outside of New York prior to going there, because, again, I think that's so important for shaping people into who they are.
I think that also matters a lot, because if anybody actually goes and reads, and I highly recommend that you do, because it is so good, and I have seen behind the curtain, I've got to read several chapters, but if you do, it's a great story, but there are little things in there where, like, she reacts to the people around her differently than maybe a native New Yorker would. And I remember when I was reading it, I was just like, has she been to New York? Like, how does she know this is how people, like, oh my God. Like, I just had, It was just a really in-depth experience.
Yeah. I remember Megan also does a 60. Yes, she does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm
she's pretty. It's cool.
That's neat of you to remember.
Anyway, I also add in things like religion, which I think is very important, because, again, I think religion really shapes people. So for her, I have her that she was raised Catholic, which is kind of normal with Latin people, I find. But she herself is actually agnostic. So you're not going to see a lot of religion brought into the book, because she's not really religious in her adult life. Mm-hmm. And then I move into strengths and weaknesses. So, like, for strengths, I put, she's intelligent, she's a good listener. She has a very caring personality, as a few examples. Weaknesses, things like she lacks self-confidence.
Too forgiving.
Yeah, too forgiving.
I got so mad at her at several points.
Well, you know. And then I start moving on to other things. So I start moving on to, sorry, my dog's trying to break into my room right now. So I write things like, what are their fears? Because I think fears are very important for characters, because no one is fearless. Unless you're writing like a fantasy novel or something like that, I don't believe that people are fearless. So for her, she actually has a fear of flying, which I found was like very important to the book, which when you keep reading it, because I know everyone is running to check out this book, you will see it later.
I had a character named after me because I'm such a bitch. It was awesome.
Oh gosh, it's true. And if anyone wants the story as to why she wanted to be that character, well,
because I'm a bitch.
Well, I also do things like I write down sexual orientation, so she is heterosexual. Marital status, she's legally separated, which whenever you read that book, which I know you're all running for, you will find that out. Who is her spouse? Who's her love interest? What are her parents' names? Does she have any siblings? And then I have this big section for other. So other is all the facts about them and their life that are going to be super important to the plot. So things like, you know, she works in a cheese shop kind of thing at the beginning of the novel. And I put in there like why she works there, like what brought her there. I also kind of talk a bit about her friends, who are Leanne and Frankie. Again, you meet them at the beginning of the novel. Why are they important? I also have character sheets on Leanne and Frankie because they're very important people in the story. Even though they are static characters, they're still important players in the novels. I thought you
For anyone, we've got a group chat going on, in which is called the troublemaker, the perfect one, and the asshole. And I got really offended that like I wasn't immediately cast as the asshole. Like,
well, we kept casting open for a while. It took a while to really.
I was born for that role, and you know it.
I don't know which role I was born for, but I fell into the perfect one. I don't know how that happened. But anyway, so that's kind of how I do my character sheets. There are so many options out there, and I encourage anyone who wants to use a character sheet, go online, just Google some stuff, get some ideas of what sort of things you should be thinking about. Pinterest, yeah, that's a great option too. And just kind of Google some ideas of what you should be thinking about whenever you are creating your characters.
Or again, you know, our DMs are open. Ask us anything. Seriously.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything. More than happy to share every resource I have for you, because I highly subscribe to the theory that a candle loses nothing lighting another candle.
100%. You'll see it because Meg and I, like, we're constantly like sharing stuff in our Instagram stories about each other's books, like, you know, because it's not going to hurt us to support each other.
Also, their motivations are good. I love identifying what a character loves the most and then take it from them. Okay,
well, that end part got a little dark.
Yeah, I thought that was really inspirational, and then it just like, good one. But I love it.
I love it. No, it's great. And you know what? I absolutely agree. Motivation and goals are so important for your characters, because every book has an end goal. So for example, like, I'm a romance writer. Obviously the end goal is the happily ever after. Mm-hmm. But what is motivating that character to get there? And that's so important to figure out, because without that motivation, you don't really have much of a plot, you know? So I think that's great.
I also think that there's a special relationship that you have with your readers as the writer. You know, you're speaking to them through the character, and I really feel like you kind of owe it to your reader to see your main character fail, because you don't really know a person until you've seen everything and how they react to things. So if you have your character fail and you see them, you know, like kind of get past that, or maybe they don't, or whatever, you know. I think that's like a vital cog that really shapes the machine that you're working with.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Oh, 1 second.
Yep. I will entertain you guys. Do you guys have any questions right now? We did get them really ahead of time, but I just want to make sure that we get to all of them. It's 37 minutes into the hour, so we're doing really well on time. So once they have motivation, they take on a life of their own. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. But yeah, or tips, if you have any tips, that's good too.
Yes, make them suffer. Rude.
So I just asked while you're gone, you know, if anybody had any questions or tips that they wanted to throw in, since we're only 40 minutes into the hour, you know, we're making great time, but I want to make sure that we include everyone, because again, we want this to be a community. We want this to be like a tree of, like, you know, helping, and, you know, we want to read your books and we want to read your synopsises. I don't want to write your synopsises. Please send those to Elle. But I want to read them. But yeah.
All right. I'm sorry about that, you guys. I just had a little interruption because I'm, of course, in my house and interruptions happen. So I apologize for that.
Adapting.
So I'm going to move into the next section. So we kind of talked about character sheets. The next thing that I do, and again, old school, I write it out. I do family trees.
Why do you make fun of me for taking notes? You look at you nerd.
I am a nerd, and I openly admit it. Do you want to see my notes that I made when I was in university?
You make fun of me.
I will always make fun of you.
Just not nice.
We can't.
I'm sensitive.
Do you hear the things you say to me?
Yes. Treat me better than I treat you.
The golden rule is do unto others as you would want the. Okay, whatever.
The rules are whatever I say they are. I'm in charge.
Oh, God. Sorry, there's a question here. What would you say are the core features that you should remember when writing a character? I feel like there's so many.
I'm just trying to look intelligent while I decipher that question. I'm sorry. Yes,
can we all agree that you're both nerds? Okay, that question I can answer. No, I'm not a nerd.
Okay. Nerds is
core features. You know, I mean, I feel like everything. I feel like,
you know, maybe their favorite color is a little less important than, like,
yeah,
you know,
I mean, like,
whether or not with a loaded gun in their hand they could pull a trigger, you know?
Yeah.
So things that kind of, like, shape them as, like, a person. So, like, responses to stress, responses to good things like love. I don't know. Like, I'm kind of like more of a metaphysical type of person, a philosopher, if you would. So that is kind of like, I don't know. Those are like, I don't know that I could define it into like a core feature, but I care more about why your person is than what your person is.
Mm-hmm.
Is that just incoherent? I'm sorry. I did my best.
Probably their fear and goal.
Fear and
goal. Those are good ones.
Yeah.
Their fears and goals.
Fear and goal. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now I'm just gonna glom onto that answer. That's better than
we'll all just piggyback on that. Eh? Maybe you should host the show.
Oh God. Although I will say, for anyone who is interested, we are going to make Mata get on here in June. Yep. So look for that post.
And we will be looking for other writers in the future. Yes. So stay tuned to our page in case we need to call out, because we do not know everything about everything, obviously. And we are always interested in people's, like, specialties in what they do. This is about a community, so.
Oh, thank God, Basil's here to the rescue.
Oh my
Okay,
gosh,
core,
Basil.
personality traits, emotion,
Hey.
fear, motivation, goal, love, and hate goals. I think the character sheet will help get core features. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good answer. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
Basil,
much better
Basil
than
and
our
I are
garbage.
the new hosts of the show. See you guys all later.
Yeah. Yeah. Bye.
Bye, we're done. All right, I'm going to move on to my next bit, which I'm going to talk a little bit about family trees, which is something else that I do. In my novel Colorglin, I knew that the love interest Patrick, I wanted him to have a very big family. That was really important to me. That was really important to him as a character. So when doing that, I really had to think about, okay, who are these extra characters going to be? Why are they important? Because like Meg said, like if there's no point to them, then don't have them. You know, like what's the point of having all these nieces and nephews if like they serve no purpose? Mm-hmm. So, you know,
all the nieces and nephews into the wood chipper.
Yeah, exactly. And so whenever you are thinking of doing a big family, make sure there's a reason behind it. A lot of my reason was when I had them go to Ireland, I really wanted to show how connected they were as a family, to show like him bringing her there was a big deal. Like these people in his life are the most important thing to him. And so her going there and him inviting her and taking her was a big deal. And I felt like without those characters, without those relationships that I showed, it might not come off that way. Like if he was just an only child with two parents, I just felt like it wouldn't come off that way. And honestly, it was the most fun I had writing the whole Ireland scene. I just loved it so much. I have so much nostalgia about that family. Like I just miss them deeply. Is that weird? Other writers get like that, right?
No.
Okay, well I feel nostalgia. I'm gonna go read those chapters when I'm done.
Yeah.
But, you know, also in juxtaposition, though, again, like I had Laurel with a very small family. She had two parents who she wasn't really close with. So, like, seeing the relationship of Patrick and his parents was, you know, kind of eye-opening for her. Mm-hmm. She has one brother. He's married. He has, you know, one kid. So, like, there's not a lot there. So, you know, like I kind of did this to help her grow and like see there is more to life than just, you know, all of her goals and plans. Like, you know,
the thing I like about that show is because I've read Colorglin. By the end of the novel, Laurel is like more of a family person than she was at the start of it, and you can really feel that that's Patrick's influence on her. Yeah. So
you're better explaining things than me. I'm all flustered and I'm like, where am I going?
Articulation. Okay.
Thank you. But anyway, and also like going to see his family, it also caused her to open up more. She's a very closed off person. She doesn't like to share her feelings and stuff like that. And being there really did open her up a bit more to seeing like just to
what it could
be more open. Yeah, what it could be. What could life be? And stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And what depending on other people look. She's very independent as well. Oh, we got a circle of death going. Anyway, that's all I've got.
Yeah.
Well, so now we have
we are at
questions and comments.
Yeah. So really the only question that we got. Are you there? Okay.
I'm here. I'm here for this. The circle of death is coming as it did last time at this exact time.
Sorry, guys. So
we had the same problem last week, 2:45.
Good. We'll have to remember that is the time that Yukon loses all of its power. Sorry. Am I circling? Are you circling?
You were
You're
circling.
okay.
Yeah.
The only question, I'm just gonna charge ahead.
Just charge ahead.
The only question that we really got ahead of time was how do you avoid the manic pixie dream girl character? And I'm just gonna define this off the bat because it's kind of like an obscure term that I wasn't really familiar with until a couple years ago.
I didn't know until you answered this question.
So the manic pixie dream girl character is the character who has have any personal goals. She really just exists to provide the protagonist, who is usually her love interest, with some sort of life lesson that's going to change the game. She's the fantasy girl that everybody wants to be with or be because she's just so darn quirky. And all I can say is the best way to avoid this is to, and similar tropes like the Mary Sue. I mentioned the Mary Sue earlier, who's just good at everything and fearless and never does anything wrong and never suffers consequence, okay? So to avoid those kind of pitfalls in writing is to make sure that your characters have lives, hopes, dreams, past, reasons to be working with or against your main character. I mean, if she's going to be a love interest and she's quirky, that's fine. But maybe her goal is actually to get the main character to fall in love with her so she can get married. Maybe it's because she wants to marry him for the $1 million he's going to inherit and then she's going to walk away from him. Who's to say? But you have to make sure that your characters have motivations of their own. They have reasons of their own. They cannot just be something that your character picks up along the way to, see it to the end. Because your side characters cannot be taxis for your main characters to get from A to B. They can't be masks that your main character wears. They have to be sentient and they have to have their own existence, or otherwise why are they even in the book? So yeah.
I love that question. I love that question. Would you say Mary Poppins is the OG Mary Sue, practically perfect in every way? I love that.
I might be misremembering this, but isn't the original Mary Poppins actually quite dark? Isn't she like really horrible and mean to the children?
I'm not sure I fully remember.
Am I blurring? Like, are all my childhood stories lies?
I don't think that's good. But I also can't fully remember.
So Mary Poppins, I don't think
Nanny McPhee.
I don't know. So
I love Nanny McPhee.
I don't think that there's no place in the world for Mary Sue's, but I think that the purpose of Mary Poppins was, to show that children can, have fun doing stuff, It's also like a child's story, and I'm not sure that there's really a deeper meaning to that. I'm not sure if I'm like inventing a grim story of Mary Poppins or what, so I'm just gonna pass the torch to you, Elle.
I'm pretty sure that Mary Poppins was not evil. I mean, I think the story behind how Mary Poppins came to be was very dark.
Maybe.
But I don't think that Mary Poppins, the book itself, was dark. But I mean, the whole point of Mary Poppins, though, even though she was practically perfect in every way, was that she was the one who helped grow other characters, right? Like, she's the one. What's the name of the dad? What's the dad's name? I can't remember. Pardon?
She kind of falls into like the sage. Like she serves like a purpose. She's more of like a mentor.
Yeah.
Am I?
Because she's the reason. Is it Mr. Banks? Yeah, Mr. Banks, right? That's the name of the dad.
Guys,
we are just not remembering.
Why is Mary Poppins so deep? Okay. Question.
Do you ever incorporate historical characters into your character? I find that for myself, I tend to incorporate myself or people that I know really well into my characters more than others, unless I'm actually writing a historical kind of story. I tend to use people around me as inspiration, and I pull traits from them.
Yeah, I don't use
Mr. Banks, I was right.
historical figures, but I base them more on people that I know. Yeah, so like if you're reading the book and you're like, wow, is this about me? Yes, it is. So you should not have wronged me.
Yeah, same with my books. It's like you said earlier, like in my books, like every character, you can see a little piece of me. Like, for example, in Leanne, a lot of that sarcasm is very much me. Like, I'm very sarcastic with people I'm close with. And yeah, so you can definitely see pieces.
So we got...
And she's on... Yeah. So what she is a static character.
Yeah.
But she does trigger change. And it's okay to have static characters, by the way.
Catalyst sometimes, depending on what you're doing, she triggers something to happen.
Yeah, like she still pushes the plot along. Yeah, because by the end, like it goes from Mr. Banks, like I feel like I'm trying to remember the story. It goes from like Mr. Banks not really caring about his kids and not really being around to suddenly being like, let's go fly a kite, you know, and then the whole song. And there's no song in the book, but I'm trying to remember, like, I remember the movie better than the book.
It's been a long time. I'm an old.
I know. I read the books when I was like a kid, you know. I remember the movie much more because I've seen it more recently. Yeah, static. Yeah, that's the word that we were looking for.
So let's talk about tips because I did promise that we were going to get to them, and I don't know when we started. But yeah, we've got a lot of tips that you guys threw in. I really want to talk about those because there were some good tips in there.
So I guess that's me.
It is.
It is me. It's me again because you guys all missed me talking, right? Okay. Missed that Canadian accent.
Bar.
I'm not falling for that. I'm not falling for it.
Decent.
Today I said A. Like more than once. Okay, sorry. This is way off topic. Okay, let's go here. So author Pat Ewick says, start with the thing about them that has the potential to ruin everything for them. Yeah, I really like that.
I like
that's
it.
Love it. I love it. Yeah. Made writes, who has been trolling us this whole time. Thanks, Made.
At least
sorting them into alignment charts and incorrect quotes. Love these.
I actually, oh my gosh, you did them, Mari did them for Miranda Writes, and I just remember I like woke up and I got in here and she did John Mulaney for all my characters, and I was just like blown away. I was like, this is amazing. So those are fun.
Author Meredith Ann says, find get to know you quizzes online and answer how your character would. So similar to what you said about taking quizzes as your characters. Tawny Scripted said, discover their greatest fear first. That seems very much like what Pat Ewick said, and I really like the idea of kind of going dark before you get light. Rin Collins says, sometimes having a muse helps build my characters, and then she adds more layers to their personality. And I agree with that. I use people in my own life personally to help me build my characters. And then the second one she had was get into their heads and think how far you can push them. I also like this because we all have our limits of how far we can be pushed with anything before it's just too much for us, right?
Everybody has a price. Sorry.
Oh, gosh.
That's so crazy.
It's so dark. Okay, and then the last one, Smiling GOJ says, the way characters talk to them can be very telling about them without being noticeable. I agree with that.
Dialogue fanatic. So yeah, I really like that.
Yeah.
So those are really good.
Yeah.
Really, we're at the end of the hour, guys. Thank you so much for keeping us company. It's really amazing. This is only our second show, but you guys come here and you support us and you throw questions and you troll us and you make us answer questions about the deep, abysses of Mary Poppins, and it really
that was a brilliant conversation. I was really into that.
Yeah. So we really hope that this has helped you. We hope last week helped you, and we hope next week helps you. I know it always helps me a lot to sit down and kind of go over the things, and we know that you know what to do, but it's nice to have like kind of that cheat sheet or reminder, kind of like we're studying here, right? Like I take notes on everything once again.
So yeah, make sure you guys hit that like button, follow us on our pages. You can follow me, Elle Meredith Writes, and author Megan Alexandria. And then next week we are doing our first ever So You Wanna After Dark. Things you guys are about to get steamier.
We're talking about sex.
Ooh! And what's so exciting about this one is we're having our first guest speaker with us who's going to talk with us about sex and how they write steamy scenes in their novel. We will be having author Meredith Ann on with us, and we're so excited that she's going to come share her knowledge. If you have not read her book, it's Miami Outlaw. It's on Radish, and it's just great. And if you do like a steamy read, it is steamy, steamy, steamy. So she's going to come share her tips with us.
If you are a Wattpad user, because I know a lot of you guys are, because we're both Wattpad authors, there is a preview of Miami Outlaw that is on Wattpad, and I'll link you straight to it. I think it's actually called The Bad Boy Biker and the Stripper on Radish.
Oh, yeah. On Radish, sorry, it is different. It is so The Bad Boy
for it, Miami Outlaw might not pull it up, but go to her page. It's at author Meredith Ann, and you can get a link there, link in her bio. You can see a preview, see what she's working on. And she'll share more next week with us. And yes, sex, I know that your mind's blown and you're so excited, so please tell everybody that we're back next week with this. We are definitely looking forward to talking about this, because obviously people like sex, and knowing how to do it right is very important, both in life and in writing. So I will say it would be very interesting, because all three of us are very different in like our erotic scenes. Like I try to be a little more like subtle and poetic about it. You're pretty
I just go for it.
You're a little blunt, and Meredith is very raunchy.
Meredith is like, okay.
You know what's happening there. So yeah, again, guys, thank you so much. Look for our posts of questions, tips, everything that's coming Wednesday. We post them every
Wednesday.
Yep. Open invitation to the DMs. Slide in with your questions, your heads up, whatever. So
yeah, absolutely. Anytime during the week, if you guys have questions, you can definitely just slide into our DMs. We're always available. And I mean, we're not always available. Like, we're going to answer in 2 seconds, but
I have no life.
Okay. Well, I'm not. But yeah, we look forward to seeing you guys next week when we talk all about sex, and we want to see you there.
Yay!
Yay! All right, guys.
Bye.
Bye.